And now returning to our main story of tonight, the situation around the Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. The strategically vital settlement in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region is the focus of an intensified Russian offensive, and its fate could influence the direction of the war. To discuss this, I'm joined by General Ben Hodges, former commander of U.S. Army Europe and Africa. General, thank you so much for joining me on the program. It's great to see you again.
Thank you for the privilege.
So on one hand, Russians are claiming victory in Pokrovsk. Meanwhile, Ukrainians are trying to push back on what is an intensified offensive on Russia's part. What is your assessment? Is Pokrovsk falling?
Well, you know, the Russians back last summer thought that they were going to get Pokrovsk, and people were predicting July of 2024 that it was going to fall. And here we are in November of 2025. Nothing is left in Pokrovsk except just rubble. And so at some point, the Ukrainians may make the decision to withdraw what's there because it's no longer worth hanging on to. But I think that the Russians have paid an enormous price for what once was an important city. Now, I don't know that it's worth continuing to defend. So it's hard to know the confusion of combat, exactly what's going on. But what's for certain is that the Russians have paid an enormous price, and it's taken them over a year just to go as far as they have.
You described the city as a pile of rubble, and yet the fight continues between Ukraine and Russia over that city. So if Russia claims definite victory, what will be the significance for Ukraine? Could this fall of the city mean the beginning of an end for Ukraine in this conflict?
Absolutely not. No. Look, Russia is using everything they have after more than a year just to finally capture Pokrovsk. And then I would ask the question, okay, once they capture Pokrovsk, then what? I mean, what will they do if they capture Pokrovsk? They don't have the capability to exploit whatever success they might have here. So the Ukrainians, if the Ukrainians decide to pull back from what they have now, they'll fall back to another defense line, and there will be nothing left for Russia to do except occupy what is a pile of rubble, anti-tank ditches and barbed wire, and a lot of unexploded ordnance. So it will take them a long time to even resume offensive operations if they do capture Pokrovsk. So I think this is anything but good news for Russia.
So you say that Pokrovsk actually doesn't have much significance for Putin, because why is he pressuring so much?
Well, of course, for Vladimir Putin, he's desperate for any good news. He doesn't have much he can tell his population about what this huge investment and cost is accomplishing for Russia. He of course will claim a huge victory if it happens, and he'll talk about, you know, they've captured more of the Donbass, but at the end of the day, this war is not about terrain. It's about momentum. It's about whether or not which side is going to collapse first. And I think the Ukrainians have figured out that if they can continue to destroy Russia's oil and gas infrastructure, Russia cannot continue to pay for this war.
So you said it's about those balances. A lot has been said about Russia's worsening economic prospects. Is the Pokrovsk struggle a sign that Ukraine is also nearing its limits? Or you think just the opposite?
No, the Pokrovsk battle, look, this has been going on for way over a year. I mean, one of the longest battles in history. And right now, the Ukrainians have put the minimum number of troops that they need in there, which I think was a good decision to reduce exposure of soldiers to getting killed by Russian drones and Russian artillery. So I think they have stretched this out probably much longer than anybody anticipated. And so they will, if they decide to pull out, they'll go back to the next defense line. I mean, look at a map and you see that Pokrovsk is in the far, far eastern part of Ukraine. Russia, after 11 and a half years, still only controls about 20% of Ukraine. And so I think we should be clear-eyed about what might happen next. And the Russians do not have the ability to exploit what's there. Ukraine, on the other hand, has changed the momentum of the war by going after Russia's oil and gas infrastructure. And I think what we're going to see is by sometime next year, on the ground, it's not going to look much different. But at the strategic level, Russia's ability to continue exporting oil to China and India and other customers is going to be dramatically reduced. And I think he is going to have a hard time paying for this war beyond next year.
So it's truly about choking the Russian oil sector.
Exactly. You're exactly right. That's a good way to say it. If the Ukrainians, and we should be helping them, with capability. You saw that the UK just announced they're going to provide a lot more Storm Shadows to Ukraine. I hope that the U.S. Will finally make a decision to provide Tomahawk, although I don't think the Ukrainians expect that to happen. People can be investing in Ukraine's defense industry so they can continue to make more of their own long-range weapons. And we should be stopping these Shadow Fleet vessels that are taking Russian oil out through the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea.
So I'm very happy that you mentioned, because Bloomberg reported that the UK is in fact transferring additional Storm Shadow cruise missiles to Ukraine. What is the US's role in all of this when it comes to supporting Ukraine? Will the images from Pokrovsk actually change Donald Trump's mind regarding the Tomahawks? We've seen different perspectives. We've heard US President changing his mind on whether or not he's going to supply these long-range missiles. What's your take on it?
Well, I have no confidence that the U.S. president will decide to do something to help Ukraine. Every time he has ever teased about doing it, talked about doing something, and then he ends up backing down from doing it. So I don't know what the president's strategic endgame is. That's what's been missing, is a clear explanation of what is America's strategic objective for this war. And the Ukrainians, I think, no longer hold their breath that the U.S. might do something. So they're turning to European partners and friends who understand that if Ukraine fails, Europe is going to pay an enormous price for it, with millions more refugees and a much larger emboldened Russian army. So I think you're going to see UK, maybe other countries continuing to help Ukraine. But I just don't have any confidence right now that the U.S. is going to do what it should do, which is to help Ukraine win.
General, thank you so much for joining me on the program. Always a pleasure speaking to you. General Ben Hodges, former commander of U.S. Army Europe and Africa, was my guest on the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so this would be all for now here on World News Tonight. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World for more news and features in just a moment.